K4ARX.
Was that correct?
It's close. Kilo 4, Alpha Romeo X-Ray. William here. Good evening.
How you doing? I got it now. Kilo 4, Alpha Romeo X-Ray. I have a bad hearing, I think, but how you doing tonight?
Hey, no trouble at all. Doing pretty good. Just finish up with a local net here, and just hanging about, listening to whoever's around. Now, those are more than just you and I. I've heard at least one or two more stations that was trying to respond to you.
Yeah, I heard one other, but they didn't quite break through. Couldn't make through anything. Trying to mess a little bit with VHF and everything. Mostly spent my time on HF, but trying to get into the local scene a little bit.
That's normally backwards for me. I don't have any real access to HF. I've got 10 meters, and even with that, all the local RFI around here and what have you is pretty difficult for me to do here inside the apartment. My location is, first floor, and everything, including the antennas, are indoors, and that just, being this close to the repeater, I would say about 3 or 4 miles, it's pretty easy for me to do. So I just stick to the, really everything from VHF and up. VHF 2 meter or 220, 70 centimeters, GMRS, 927 megahertz, I believe it is. Also P25, and do a little DMR too.
Yeah, I've been looking at putting a mobile rig in my truck, and I've been trying to decide if doing DMR or D-Star for the area would be worth it. Maybe have a little bit of insight on maybe what I should install, even if I should just be, just negate the digital modes and just stick to regular FM. What are your thoughts?
Well, I would definitely, in the least, use some kind of a dual band mobile radio. See, I confuse my words too. Dual band mobile radio. And if you want to, I would not write off the D-Star. I'm sure it's being used around here somewhat. Probably not so much as the DMR. So many acronyms. There's also some GMRS use around here. That's kind of beside the point at the moment. Me personally, as many radios as I have, I pretty much monoband everything. That way I don't miss anything. If I wanted to scan a particular band, I can listen to conversations and keep up. And if something pops up on another particular spectrum, say on UHF, I won't miss that either. Like for the past weekend, the marathon was easy to keep up with. I could keep up with 2 different nets on 2 different bands.
That's good to hear. I just actually turned on my GMRS radio last night for the first time, and I don't know, probably 6 months at least. I can hit both of the area repeaters just barely from my house. But going back to the ham bands, like I said, I'm just not on anything local. I do have a radio right now that will take do D-Star. I do have an icon that I use for POTA that will do D-Star, but I haven't even, started to look at it yet, and even how to get on it. So kind of a noob to everything really in radio, but definitely this side of the house I am.
Well, again, not being very versed in D-Star, you could probably check with some of the local websites, or at least the websites for the local clubs, and they'd be a little bit more descriptive with that and how to access that. Likely you'll find somebody that will help you anyways, being on the internet or on the air.
think I'm gonna just, I'm thinking, I'm looking around at one of the Icon, I think it's the 2730, I'm thinking I'm just gonna put that in my truck and use it, be happy with it, try to get on the repeaters every day, on the way to work or on the way home, and just check in the nets more often. That was my first start in radio, but then I quickly progressed into HF and everything like that. I just run right now a random wire up in my attic, and for the most part, it does pretty decent.
Simple little setup
out here. My noise floor is a little high, being out in the suburbs. My neighbors have solar panels and all of that, but it do okay on that.
Yeah, I understand. The top of our building has, it's covered in solar panels, and I expect it powers the city more than it does the building itself, but that probably doesn't help with the addition of the RFI here in this area. Haven't tried it any other way, besides VHF and UHF outdoors, DMR. Haven't attempted 10 meters yet, and there's just so much structure around here, it may be almost impossible anyways. And I've got a bridge right overhead. It's about, 100 feet. But again, I haven't tested to see if it actually helps or prevents or whatnot. But I'm presuming you're also going HF mobile. You're doing POTA. I wonder if you're going mobile with HF radio, K4ARX.
Yeah, so when I set up POTA, I typically, not every time, but I usually do QRP.
Okay.
My idea behind it is I used to be kind of like an avid backpacker and everything, so I try to go out to some of the parks and, some of the trails and, get a couple miles in and then just set up somewhere nice. So I need a lightweight rig to do that. So I use an Icon 705 and a small 6 amp hour battery, and with a wire antenna, I'm only carrying a couple of pounds, but I'm hopefully going to get out west and do some of that. Hopefully next year, get back on the trails and see some more of the country. KQ4OTH for ID.
I got you. There's a lot of guys here in the area that do the POTA and the SOTA, and a few of those guys will go out there to the what do you call that? It's the Appalachian Trail, Blue Ridge Parkway, and they'll activate some of the local parks. They'll go out that way and activate those parks as well and travel about. I used to read about it a lot and watch videos on it, and I haven't done anything like it recently in the past few days, but I know a lot of the local guys do that, and some of those local guys are also involved in the D-Star and the DMR.
Yeah, I'll have to try to find some of them. Definitely would like to get out with some people that are doing it. I've gone out, got a couple guys that we go and do the POTA activations with, but I would definitely like to get out more and do, the SOTA stuff, because I'm telling you right now, like going out west, coming from the East Coast, going out there and just seeing the countryside out there is just amazing compared to out here. But I have friends on the West Coast that think the East Coast is just amazing to look at. It's kind of funny, but I would like to incorporate doing CW on those activations. Just minimal equipment, just being out there, making a few QSOs, and I don't know. I think it's kind of like in my mind, for lack of a better term, like a romantic idea. It's just bare minimum equipment, and just seems to be almost poetic.
Sorry about the rattling of my snack box over here. Yeah, you get kind of used to what you get used to. You're in one place, and old adage, grass is always greener on the other side, right? And I've seen the West Coast, I've seen the Rockies and all that too, basically from the interstate.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's funny. One of my best friends, he lives in Los Angeles, and if you could see his house that he lives in and what he pays for it compared to what we do, you would be completely shocked. But we were talking one time, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that one time I was out there and we were in North Carolina, and I saw a deer." And I just looked at him. I was like, "Ski, I see deer in my backyards. I live like 4 miles from the city. Like, what are you talking about? You know?" But he just doesn't see that in Los Angeles. You know, he has to go definitely more remote from that area. It's completely different world, that's for sure.
Yeah, as amusing as that is, and from where I come, I used to live in there around UGA, and there was a city park, still there, and they have their own little zoo. They have otters, they have black bear, they have deer. They have white-tailed deer at the zoo. You could drive into any surrounding county and you could see any wild deer. But apparently, it's a big thing to have deer at the zoo. It used to be an issue because people would come by there and try and pull them out as if they were poachers or something. They also had snake houses and a little pond. And the big thing was the fish and the turtles, the tortoises. Oh my gosh, there was all kinds of things to see at that little park. But yeah. Anyways, got a brother out in Burbank, so I know how expensive it is out that way. So, wow. Like I said, I've been out that way a few times. Don't necessarily care to go back. Stupid timeout timer. Turn it off.
Yeah, it's always a nice area to visit.
Yeah.
Two of my best friends live out there. One lives in Los Angeles, another lives near San Diego. So I usually go out there, usually once a year, sometimes twice, sometimes I skip a year. It's just a different world, man. It's not that like, it's not laid back like here. If you've been to Burbank, I mean, you know what it's like. It's just a lot different. Going from, I remember one of my buddies that's out there, when he was getting married, one of the groomsmen had bought the wrong pants for the wedding, and I was like, "Oh, we'll just go out and buy another pair for you." And when I looked up where it was, Google said that it was only 3 miles away, but it was a 30-minute drive. So completely different world out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, California is so far left. If any further left, it would be out in the ocean. And I've been out that way. I left the left and came back right or east, and this is where I stay. I've been out that way a few times, like I've said, but I much prefer the Midwest. It doesn't matter if it's upper or lower. If it's not too far south Texas, it's fine. Anywhere Midwest is okay, and Kansas was very beautiful. I've been out that way several times on the last job. And the Northeast, not too bad. I've been all the way up to Maine and up and down the East Coast and the I-95 corridor, all the way down to Florida. I've been to the Miami area probably once or twice, but much rather be on this side of the whole country. I've been around the areas quite a bit, all the way up into Minnesota and Wisconsin and all that good stuff. Even upper Michigan, way out in the sticks.
Oh yeah, the UP is very nice. I mean, I played ice hockey up there probably, I don't know, I was in high school, so it had to be 25 years ago, but played up there one summer. It was great, but I think my favorite place in the country I've been is Idaho, and I was looking at moving there in like 2009, 2010, when it was more affordable, but now everybody from California has moved there, and it's not affordable anymore. I mean, the cost of houses or land, just anywhere, remote to like Boise, is just through the roof. I couldn't afford to live there, but I'd like to get back out there, and maybe if I play everything out right, I'll retire there, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stay over here. it's just cheaper on me. I've seen a lot of places out there, a lot of expensive places. I've done a little research. I've watched a lot of video. Yeah, this is fine over here. My brother has encouraged me to come out that way, and I'm like, no. Honestly, I can't afford this. How could I ever afford that? I know what you're paying out there. I know what you're doing. You know, you're freelance. It's got to be hard enough. No, I'll pass. Thank you. But this is fine here. No complaints. And I'm personally right downtown. So if I need to go anywhere, I don't drive. I just take the bus. The bus is free. I brag about that a lot, but it's practical. K4ARX.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely the most comfortable on the East Coast. It's definitely home. I was born in Chicago, but moved to Charlotte, North Carolina at a young age, so I'm very, very comfortable out here. So I definitely feel what you're saying with that. I feel like this area, or even Charlotte, which is busy now, is a lot more laid back than when you go to any bigger cities, even Miami, like you mentioned. It's more laid back than those areas, but I like it here, but I like the backdrop of the West Coast, or I guess the Midwest, or wherever you call that Idaho area. It's just absolutely beautiful. But back to you, KQ4OTH.
Yeah, I understand. There's lots of places to visit. I've been to a lot of great big cities. Chicago. Chicago. Any weather. You usually end up on the job. Places like that, you end up going there in the winter. And that was the most you spent those times in those places, is because that's where they needed you to go. Nobody else wanted to do it. And as far as any big city goes, I don't care if it's New York or Atlanta. Here in Richmond, out in Chicago, St. Louis, all those places are best passed through at night. There's a lot less traffic at night. It's a lot easier to get through there as fast as you can and get where you need to be, or at least where there's less traffic.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Some of the guys I work with, they'll complain about traffic, around the Richmond area, and you've been all over. You know how it is. I'm like, I've never experienced bad traffic in Richmond, at least compared to Chicago or Los Angeles or Miami or Jacksonville or any of these other places I've been. It's just a lot easier to get around. But do you travel a lot for work? What do you do for work?
Yeah, my wife here is paraplegic, so I work from home technically. More of a volunteer than anything else. It's not a paid job, but being in that kind of service is very rewarding in many ways, including the hobby here, because that's how it's funded for the most part. But anyways, I used to drive a big rig, Class A, and did a lot of travel at night. I've been through all those big cities and all those states out that way, and we actually used to travel together on the last job. Used to carry anything and everything that wasn't too dangerous. We carried the ORMDs back then. They were individually labeled hazmat products, the sprays and shampoos and stuff, and went into refrigerated and frozen foods as well, and did a lot of that. That really kept us busy, so didn't have complaints with that. Did travel a whole lot, probably had 4 or 5 days off a month, and traveled throughout the rest of that month and tried to make as much money as I could.
Okay, so you drove big rigs and whatnot, is that correct?
That's right. And most of the time it was some kind of a box trailer. It didn't matter if it was dry or refrigerated. We actually had some heated trailers in that particular company, and that was what we used to carry food product. That the thing was, they were trying to keep it from freezing, so they kept it anywhere between 50 and 70 degrees. So there was a heater on the trailer, not a cooler. And that was things like pasta for lasagna and split peas, stuff for the refrigerated microwave type meals.
Okay, gotcha. That's kind of new to me, actually. I've always, seen and thought of refrigerated trucks. You know, I've always seen that for food and whatnot, but I had never thought of the, I don't know the proper way to say it, but the anti-refrigerated trucks, trying to keep stuff, you know, warm or at a specific temperature. But my grandfather, he actually owned a trucking company, and I think he got up to somewhere around 20 trucks that he ran. You know, he was over-the-road trucker, did it for years, and kind of branched out and ran his own company for quite a few years until 9/11 kind of messed his business up, and did a little work for him, never did any driving for him. Went with one of my uncles to like repossess or recover a truck that someone abandoned in Texas, just things like that. But it always intrigued me that that line of work because he did it.
Yeah, imagine all the stations I worked going along, even at midnight. I talked to more people on 146.52 at midnight that I can care to remember, especially in, let's see, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Illinois. It's always easy to find somebody. Somebody's always waiting for somebody or whatever. I met guys that would wait up, past midnight. Wife was getting off of a second shift. She was an hour or so away, and he was at home on a beam talking to her on Simplex just to carry her home, just for the travel. She probably drove an hour, half an hour, whatever it was for the commute. And there I was coming through talking to them. I think I've talked to some of those guys. Maybe you've heard of them in the Kentucky area. I think they are El Cara, and it's a big YouTube channel, and they do lots of radio, and they do a lot of repeater building and whatnot, and venturing out into other things. But I'm sure I've talked to them.
So it's El Cara, Echo Lima Charlie Alpha Romeo Alpha, is that correct?
No echo. Lima Charlie Alpha Romeo Alpha. El Cara is what they call themselves. And I forget exactly what the acronym means, but I watched a lot of their videos, and they do lots of repeater work, tower work, and what have you, mobile trailers and MCOM and all that stuff. And I looked them up, and they are very near Corbin, Kentucky. And I used to go through there a lot at night, and used to talk to some of those guys, a lot of CB radio chatter and what have you. I used to carry an analog scanner I picked up in that area, and I could listen to whatever was left analog, and it was quite a bit. Lots of small fire departments and police and ambulances and whatnot that I could still hear. And on the side, I even carried GMRS in the truck, so it was very active. Yeah, not to say 2-meter sideband. I had one of those IC 271 Alpha and a IC 757, I believe it was, for HF.
Very cool. Yeah, I just found El Cara Lima Charlie Alpha Romeo Alpha ham radio on YouTube. I'm definitely going to check it out. I'm interested in how repeaters work, so it's funny you mentioned that. I'll have to check them out some more and see what they got going on. But very cool. You're talking about just talking on Simplex. I just drove down to Florida a couple of weeks ago, and basically didn't hear any Simplex activity. And I was only running an HT, but I figured I'd pick something up along the way, but didn't pick anything up until Florida, really. They got a statewide 70-centimeter repeater network.
They sure do.
I got on that a little bit, talked to some people, but other than that, it seemed like it was kind of dead out there. But anyway, back to you, KQ4OTH.
KQ4OTH, K4ARX. I've talked to a lot of passers-by out here. I'm right off the interstate downtown, at the I-95, I-64 interchange, actually. And I've talked to a lot of people that come through here on 5-2, and they'd start in Florida and then go up into, maybe as far as Maine. And all those hours from Florida and the Carolinas, to about this point, they didn't hear anybody but me, and I was a little impressed with that. Not boasting a big station here, but I could talk to them for a few miles, and it would kind of make their day just talking to somebody on Simplex, and kind of do the same thing on GMRS Direct as well. It's a little surprising, just the way it's set up. But again, it's the proximity to the interstate system that kind of helps me out.
Yeah, that's good, being close to the interstate. I'm right here at 288 in Midlothian. Probably, if I turn the radio on more, I could probably pick some people up. Maybe just throw my call out here and there. I've heard a little bit of chatter, but I don't always know when's the appropriate time to chime in and whatnot. I've heard a couple months ago people asking for like restaurant recommendations, or should I go this way or that way? What's a good route to get around the city or go through the city? Just typical stuff we always think of, when you're driving across country and whatnot. But I don't know. I'd definitely like to hear more on the radio. Maybe I'll check in every day, trying to make a pact to myself to